think he might have just given your testimony. I'm not sure.
Well, I've been on message now for a decade.
That was the 1970s version? Or the 90s?
Co-chairs, members of the committee, for the record, I'm John Kitzhaber, Governor of the State of Oregon, and I appreciate very much the opportunity to appear today and talk about this important piece of legislation. I want to start by thanking the Oversight Committee and the chairs who, for the past 17 months, have examined virtually every aspect of this project. As you saw in the video, in the late 1990s and early part of the 2000s, business leaders and community leaders began to raise concerns about the growing congestion and constriction of mobility. And Governor Locke and myself created a bi-state group that was asked to review the transportation needs and develop a long-term strategic plan for facilitating safety and freight mobility in this critical trade corridor around Portland and Vancouver. Today you have before you a project that has been analyzed, criticized, downsized, and looked at from absolutely every angle. It's been looked at independently by our state treasurer, by legislators, by international and national experts, and ultimately has been approved by our local, state, and federal partners. We have a construction-ready project that will increase mobility, will reduce congestion, and improve the transportation of goods throughout the state of Oregon and indeed throughout the world. As you know, these bridges, the oldest of which was built almost a century ago, form one of the worst bottlenecks on any highway system in the United States. This is the last lift bridge on Interstate 5, and it essentially puts a stoplight on an interstate highway system that contributes to congestion and in the neighborhood of 400 wrecks a day. What's more, these bridges are not seismically sound. They are built on Douglas fir footings that is sunk in soil that is liquefiable and would render these bridges inoperable should we experience the kind of major seismic event that most experts tell us we should be prepared for. So the bottom line is these bridges need to be replaced with modern, multimodal, seismically sound spans if we're going to maintain the vitality of our trade-dependent economy and make good on the investments we're making today to try to ensure economic recovery and growth in the future. So we've been at this a long time. My hair actually had color back in that video. We've reached a point, I think, of opportunity, but also of some significant urgency. Today, at the federal government, all the way up to the White House, we have very strong support for this project. We have the support of the Oregon and Washington congressional delegations. We have the support of Secretary of Transportation Ray LaHood. We have the support of Homeland Security Secretary Napolitano. In short, we have the support of everyone who is essential on the federal side to make this project move forward if Oregon and Washington are willing to commit to this project by making a commitment of resources. Because of the work that's been done to date by many of you, we now have a project that ranks near the top of the queue for significant federal resources. But the fact is, with the fiscal challenges the federal government is facing today, with the fiscal cliff, with the concern about the national debt, it's very unlikely that these kinds of resources are going to survive at this level into the future. And if we fail to act in 2013, it's very likely that other national projects will move up the queue and come in ahead of us in terms of priority for funding. So in order to secure the federal resources that are available today, we need to make a financial commitment here in the state of Oregon and in the state of Washington to ensure our federal partners that we are serious about this bridge. Here's how it works. The U.S. Department of Transportation requires states to make a binding commitment to finance their share of the project and to indicate clearly where those resources are going to come from in order for the feds to release their dollars to make the project go. I think the piece of legislation before you, it represents a very prudent and substantial step in the right direction. I think it meets the requirements of our federal partners to prove up our commitment to this bridge with real resources. It has some important conditions. It's conditioned on Washington State appropriating their resources. It's conditioned upon getting the Coast Guard permit for the bridge height, and also the approval by Treasurer Wheeler of the investment grade analysis. I think taken in total, this piece of legislation provides the financial flexibility to get the best deal for taxpayers at the least financial risk. And I think it's very, very important that we keep the Treasurer very deeply involved with the language in this legislation as it moves forward. I must say that although I had hoped for a proposal that provided new revenue to finance the bridge, I have also said that this is ultimately a legislative decision, so I'm here to support the proposal before you. This House bill commits, as you know, Oregon resources to finance the bridge from within existing revenue. You'll hear more about this from the chair of the Transportation Commission, Pat Egan, but I think it does this approach does demonstrate the kind of financial commitment we need to ensure that the federal resources are released, and more importantly, or just as importantly, it provides a time frame for Washington to act. And the reason I think it's very important to get this bill out in early March is the Washington legislature will still have another month to act as the final handshake to make this happen. I also understand that if the conditions of this bill are met, the legislative leadership is committed to producing a larger revenue measure that addresses the revenue of the entire transportation system by no later than 2015, or I think Chair Egan will tell you we begin to squeeze within the existing STIP and existing transportation projects. Over the course of a decade, and it truly has been a decade, this has been studied and analyzed and restudied and reanalyzed, and I think the result is a project that's ready to be built, and it's a better, stronger project because of the intense scrutiny which it has undergone over this past decade. So I think, in closing, I think it's time to seize an opportunity, a remarkable opportunity to get a huge ROI on the $400 million investment that we're going to be making here in the state, to invest in our transportation system, to invest in our economy, and to invest in Oregon's future. It is time to build a bridge.
Thank you, Governor. Questions of the Governor? Thank you very much, Your Honor.